Hare Krishna, and welcome everyone to today's reading of Venu Gita by His Holiness Shivaram Swami, Krishna in Vrindavan series. We are on chapter 15, Giriraja as Hari-dasa-varya, and we're going to finish this chapter today, even if we go a little over time. It's a little bit more than I usually read left, but I just want to not just leave a few pages left of the chapter. So we left off with saying here that great curiosity arose among the gopis regarding the further glories of Govardhan Hill. Like a drove of swans in a pure lake of nectar, they began to speak among themselves. So now they're going to speak among themselves. Let's hear what they say. Vishaka Devi said, "The Vrajavasis performed the worship of Giriraj as ordered by Sri Krishna. King Indra, infuriated by their impudence, unleashed the Samvartika clouds, which caused devastation not only to Vraj, but echoed throughout the universe, causing the elephants that support the 10 directions to tremble. In response to his aggrieved kinsmen, Sri Krishna effortlessly lifted Govardhan Hill and encouraged them to go under it. In this way, he steadily held Giriraj for 7 days, while the stunned gopas gazed at his beautiful lotus face." Posing a question well articulated by her artistic facial expressions, Vishaka Devi asked, "At the end of the 7th day, some gopis near the edge of the Govardhan parasol saw a furious Indra, mounted on his Airavata elephant, accompanied by his armies in full battle regalia, arrive and then quickly leave. Does someone know the significance of that incident?" Lalita Devi said with a smile, "Seeing the wind, rain, and lightning fail in their mission of punishing the Vrajavasis, Indra came in person to the circle of Vraj with the purpose of destroying Nanda's village. From afar, the King of Heaven raised his thunderbolt and prepared to unleash his greatest weapon. Ignorant of the infallibility of Sri Krishna's protection, King Indra, like other conditioned souls, was proud of his strength and personal opulence. By material calculation, he estimated his strength to be superior to earthly humans and thought himself unconquerable. Suddenly, both his arms and the thunderbolt in his hand became paralyzed, and he was unable to move the width of a hair. Although he attempted to surpass the invisible force that had immobilized him, his public efforts remained insignificant, and he remained struggling, suspended in the sky like a toy. Terrified, embarrassed, and helpless, the heavenly king turned his back on Vraj and fled with the demigods and Samvartika clouds like an elephant wounded by a lion. At this, all the gopis clapped and embraced each other. They relived the great relief that had followed the storm's conclusion. When the sun suddenly rose, the sky became clear, the ground dried up, and the animals became cheerful. Enchanting her friends with her soft smile, Chitradevi said, "When all the gopas, gopis, and cows left the shelter of Govardhan Hill, many of Sri Krishna's personal friends remained underneath. As I was leaving, I heard their raised voices and could understand there was a disagreement among the boys. Does someone know the nature of that exchange?" These are some new little elements to the Govardhan Hill pastime that I haven't heard before, at least. Champakalata, a golden lotus in her hand, answered, "Sakhi, after almost everyone left Govardhan's shelter, Sri Krishna's chums," that's his friends, remained under the hill, supporting it with their sticks as they had done for the previous 7 days. When Giridhari said, "Go out so I can replace the mountain," they replied, "No, no, no. We have been holding it, so first you go, and then we will put it down." The cowherd boys believed that they had held Govardhan Hill and feared for Gopal's safety if they were to lower their sticks and let go. In this way, they argued back and forth until Sri Krishna shifted a portion of the mountain's weight to the talkative boys. Feeling the immense weight of Giriraj, the gopas immediately fell to the ground, devastated. Hearing this fun, the gopis giggled happily as Champakalata concluded her story. With a mischievous grin, Govinda raised his friends with one hand, and with the other he playfully replaced the hill as it was before. After the completion of this heroic deed, some cowherd boys reprimanded Hari for not giving ample warning, and others made futile efforts to raise Govardhan again. The boys were like, "Hey, let's pick it up again." The gopis looked overhead and raised their palms as if holding the burden of the hill, while Indulekha inquired. After replacing the hill, Sri Krishna walked counterclockwise to see the damage done by the rains. According to his talkative friends, the demigods headed by Indra performed his coronation ceremony. Is this really true? In answer, Sri Rupa said, King Indra met Sri Krishna in a secluded place, and flushing with embarrassment, bowed low before him, offering many prayers as if he were Lord Narayan. Hearing such an account, the gopis exchanged incredulous glances, like, why would they treat Krishna like Narayan? That's so strange. Then Surabhi bathed Hari with great streams of milk. The four-tusked Airavata showered him with Ganges water. The Devas, Kinnaras, Gandharvas, and Rishis offered prayers, and the Apsaras and the heavenly society girls showered him with flowers. Wanting to know more, charming Indulekha inquired, Rupa, is there any evidence of these events on Govardhan Hill? If there was an Abhishek, elaborate puja, and much ado, we should be able to see the remnants of such activities now. It is as you say, Devi, replied her younger friend. When noble-hearted Govardhan Hill witnessed Sri Krishna's bathing ceremony, he became so overwhelmed with joy that he melted, and his stones flowed in all directions like slush. Being very pleased with Govardhan's devotion, Sri Krishna left the mark of his lotus hand on the melting hill. O Sakhis, even today you may see his handprint, footprint, and the hoofprints of the Surabhi. They are certainly a great holy place and the destroyer of innumerable sins. Lavanga Devi, who is the intimate servant of Tungavidya and very much favored by Sri Radha, added, the streams of milk which flowed from Mother Surabhi like a shower of maternal affection formed the lake we now know as Govinda Kund, the purifier of all souls. Those with pure devotion to Sri Krishna taste that water like ambrosial milk, delivering the shelter of his lotus feet. Wow, so Govinda Kund was formed by the milk of the Surabhi cow. Enlivened by ecstasy, Lavanga Devi, who had a special affinity for the places of Sri Krishna's pastimes, said, although one may count the stars in the sky, the grains of sand on the beach, and the atoms within the universe, the glories of Govardhan Hill, like those of the son of Nanda, are inestimable. Sri Radha was very pleased to see the non-envious attitude of her maidservant, and desiring to hear about the wonders of Giriraj, she smiled at Lavanga and said, Priye, you are very knowledgeable on topics concerned with Sri Krishna's Leela Stan. Please satisfy the craving of my ears and make my empty heart happy once again. With tears in her eyes, Lavanga said, I am only an insignificant girl with no qualification except your mercy. Your desire that I speak is my only source of knowledge. Whatever I say will simply be the words imparted from your all-knowing lotus heart. Devi, please bless me. Turning slightly toward the direction of Giriraj and speaking as if he were just nearby, Lavanga Manjari said, there are many stones on Govardhan Hill bearing the insignia of Sri Krishna, and even more numerable are the areas of his charming pastimes. When the crown of Vraja's prince fell from his head, it left its imprint on a stone. Whoever takes the darshan of that stone will be ensured of being crowned the king of cowherd boys. Desiring to commemorate his own Govardhan Leela, Sri Krishna drew wonderful pictures on a sacred stone named the picture stone, Chitra Shila. When Krishna wanted the Gopas to dance, he kept beat on a stone now known as the musical stone, Vadani Shila. This rock is the destroyer of the greatest sins and bestows knowledge of all musical sciences. While the cows grazed on the slopes of Govardhan Hill, Krishna would play ball with his friends in a place known as the ball game field, Kanuka Kshetra. After eating many tasty preparations sent by their mothers, the boys would lay down for a nap. While they slept, the prankster Gopal stole their turbans and hid them in a secluded place known as Ashnisa Tirtha. At another place known as Lokika Tirtha, decorated with large stones, deep caves, high trees, and flowering groves, the boys played hide and seek, making the valley of Govardhan resound with their play. The nectar emanating from Lavanga's mouth showered the hearts of the gopis and sprinkled the thirsty creeper of Sri Krishna's remembrance. Although this vine grew within their beings, its external fruits appeared in the form of tears in their eyes, stiffness of their hairs, and shivering of their limbs. Tulsi has elaborately spoken of Danakeli's toll at Dangati. This is one of the many places where, taking shelter of his aristocratic lineage, he levied a tax on even the princess of Varshana. For example, the gopis' tinkling ankle bells once acted as his informants and notified him of their proximity while delivering fresh yogurt to the market. Leaping from among a clump of tamal trees, dressed like a pastoral Kamadev, holding a stick in his hand and accompanied by many rowdy friends, Sri Krishna confronted the gopis and ordered, "You must pay me a customs duty. By the authority invested in me by King Nanda, I prevail as the guardian of this forest and the authority in this area." The gopis recalled their happy escapade, and absorbing themselves in the narration of Lavanga Manjari, felt they were experiencing that Leela once again. When Sri Krishna's sapphire aura blended with the golden effulgence of the gopis, an emerald luster of loving conflict engulfed the area in its spell. On behalf of the gopis, Lalita Devi argued, "Dear Hari, it is highly unlikely that anyone as wise as Nanda Maharaj would trust you as a tax collector. Since birth, your reputation for honesty has been conspicuous by its absence. You are known as a butter thief, a thief of the gopis' clothes, and a thief of everyone's heart. In addition, you revel in the questionable association of your flute and chums. Who would ever trust you as a tax collector, I do not know. If, however, the venerable king of cowherds gave you the benefit of the doubt, I am certain that your levy would be unfair and your collections hardly reconcilable." Sri Krishna appeared extremely shocked at such strong allegations. Before he could reply, Lalita said, "You are simply greedy for our yogurt and have devised a means to free us of our property. Should you continue to block our path, we will see to it that you and your cohorts are locked up in King Kamsa's prison." Having regained his composure, Sri Krishna tightened his belt, glanced towards his friend, and took a deep breath, saying, "Kamsa? King Kamsa? Who is that ferocious mouse, surrounded by his equally insignificant advisors and friends? I will kill that rascal and annihilate his parliament. Today, as I stand before you, I, whose words never go in vain, take this sacred vow. Kamsa will die." With that, Govinda looked to the sun as his witness and briefly folded his hands. In an instant, and without further ado, Krishna, Balaram, and the Gopas assaulted the numerically inferior gopis and, forcibly taking their pots of yogurt, retreated to a nearby place where they greedily enjoyed the booty. They forcibly took the yogurt pots. In an instant, and without further although the gopis appeared furious, internally they were very happy. They had churned that yogurt for that very purpose, and their greatest pleasure was to feed Govinda. An angry Lalita said, "O great hero, you are very bold, fearless, and talkative in the secluded forest where your combat is with helpless cowherd girls. We wonder what prowess you can show in the city of Mathura, surrounded by armed soldiers and the king's military might." Turning on their heels, the gopis said, "We shall immediately tell Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda Ma of your outrageous behavior. Let us see how well you stand up to a good spanking by your truly noble father." Sri Krishna ignored the gopis' remarks, but continued to follow their every movement from the corner of his lotus eyes. He distributed the yogurt to his friends, who made cups from nipa and palasha leaves, and greedily ate the entire takings. That very sacred place where the leaves of the trees became cups is known as Drona Tirtha. By giving yogurt in charity, drinking yogurt from a leaf cup, and bowing down with great respect, one will never fall from Goloka. Such is the power of that place. That's another section. Excuse me. Then Lavanga Manjari stopped speaking. As many tears of happiness flowed down her chest and streaked its reddish kumkum, she tried to cover her feelings by covering her golden face with her veil. The gopis looked at her like thirsty chikora birds, waiting to drink the moonlight of her words. In that silence, Sri Radhika stepped forward to comfort Lavanga, but the touch of her love-filled form only heightened her maidservant's bliss and increased her flow of tears. As her Saki composed herself, Sri Radha smiled at Tunga Vidya Devi and said, Saki, now you please describe to us the origin of this great king of mountains. Describe his appearance in Vraj, and explain those mahima by which our hearts will know satisfaction, and by which we shall learn the secrets of pleasing Hari. In Radhika's well-appointed chamber, the senior gopis took seats on bejeweled chairs, while their assistants, like Rupa, Rati, and Lavanga, sat on nice carpets. Tunga Vidya Devi, who was the embodiment of Sri Radha's learning, folded her hands and said, Radhike, in our happy years of friendship, I have never seen your heart satiated by hearing of or associating with Sri Krishna or his devotees. As for the secrets of pleasing Hari, what you do not know in this connection is without existence or is veritably displeasing to his heart. Oh, she's saying that whatever you don't know doesn't exist. Basically, she's saying in a roundabout way that you know everything there is to know about pleasing Hari. Still, because you have asked, I will speak what I have heard regarding Govardhan Hill from the mouths of learned authorities. The great sage Garga Rishi has narrated the meeting between Narada Muni and the pious king Bahulashva. In that discussion, the topic of Govardhan Hill was thoroughly discussed in a most authoritative and flawless manner. It is well known that the words of Devarshi Narada are as infallible as the Vedas. Thus, without questioning his statements, we should simply embrace them and reap eternal benefit. The pastime of the Rasa dance eternally takes place in Goloka, where Sri Krishna and our Radhika are the central locket of the sapphire-decorated golden chain of Gopi Krishna, Gopi Krishna, Gopi Krishna. So it's like Rasa Leela is a Gopi and Krishna, and a Gopi and Krishna, and Gopi Krishna, and then in the middle is Radha and Krishna. There, in a splendid Rasa arena, decorated with many jeweled ornaments, strings of pearls, precious stones, and charming awnings, danced many beautiful gopis to the accompaniment of the flute, mridangas, and their own singing. The intoxicating atmosphere caused the birds to sing, the honey to ooze, the flowers to bloom, and the trees to move. The patter of feet, the tinkling of ankle bells, the clapping of hands, and the ringing of ornaments entwined with the moonlight to perfume the forest and exhilarate its residents. At that time, Radhika cast a sidelong glance at Sri Krishna, and speaking in the sweetest way, she said, My dearly beloved, if you are pleased with my love, my gopi friends, their love for you, this dance of love, and the abode of love, Vrindavan, then there is a desire in my heart that only you can fulfill. Sri Krishna, who is favorably disposed to his devotees and fully under Radhika's control, said, O beautiful Radha, without reservation, ask for whatever your heart desires. My only pleasure in life is to fulfill your every wish. Now please tell me, how may I satisfy you? Radiant as molten gold, Sri Radha said, In a splendid Vrindavan forest, in a most secluded place by the Yamuna's shore, please create an unprecedented place of pleasure pastimes, not comparable to anything in Vraj but itself. Mystified by her wonderful request, Sri Krishna said, So be it. Closing his lotus eyes and looking deep within his fathomless heart, Sri Krishna searched for the essence of his own bhava, which is the source of happiness for all living beings, including himself. As the gopis stood by and watched, Sri Krishna's love manifest from his heart, appearing as a magical seed of bliss, made from fire and water. Falling to the ground of the rasa circle, that sprout of love began to grow to the size of a rock, then a hill, and finally a great mountain. Wow. It was filled with effulgent caves, swiftly moving streams, kadamba, bakul, and ashoka trees, flowering vines, parrots, peacocks, and hummingbirds, and many varieties of deer and forest creatures. The mountain and its many creatures were fashioned of love. They possessed love within their hearts, and they tasted the nectar of love with their beings. Gazing at the best of mountains with lotus eyes, Sri Krishna's beloved was very pleased. Taking her friends and her beloved, they explored the many secluded places on Govardhan Hill, tasting the various fruits of love growing within its every nook and cranny. In this way, Govardhan Hill, which is very dear to Sri Krishna, which is dark as a monsoon cloud, and which contains all the holy places, was manifest in Goloka. So this was in Goloka. As if in answer to a question, Tungavidya said, Goloka, Govardhan, Vrindavan, and the river Yamuna are eternally manifest. But for the pleasure of Sri Krishna's pastimes, wherein he enjoys unlimited variety and eternal newness, they manifest an appearance of entering into the realm of the eternal present. Some gopis looked on, their delicate mouths slightly opened, their beautiful bimba fruit lips expressing bewilderment. Although they are the source of unlimited transcendental knowledge, by the influence of their love for Sri Krishna, the gopis become mugdata and live in the realm of temporal reality. Encouraged by her captivated audience, Tungavidya Devi, the source of countless goddesses of learning, described how Govardhan appeared within the world. The master of Goloka promised Brahma he would appear in this world, and he had also assured Radhika. So what we saw, that story of Krishna's love coming out of his heart and landing in that was in Goloka, Vrindavan, in the spiritual sky. So now she's going to describe how that Govardhan hill from Goloka, Vrindavan, came to this world. Okay. The master of Goloka promised Brahma he would appear in this world, and he had also assured Radhika that she would accompany him, along with a complete portion of the spiritual world. To fulfill his order, Govardhan Hill took birth west of Bharatvarsha, in the middle of Shalmali Dweep, as the divine son of Mount Drona. At the time of his birth, the demigod showered flowers, played musical instruments, and sang many songs in his glorification. The mountains, headed by the Himalayas, bowed down, circumambulated him, offered worship, and then glorified him with many wonderful prayers. One day, while traveling to holy places of pilgrimage, the sage Pulastya saw Mount Drona's son decorated with all natural opulence, endowed with purity, goodness, and peace, and appearing as the perfect place for austerities. Approaching Drona, Pulastya said, O Drona, king of mountains, I come to you with a request. I live in Kashi, the home of Lord Vishveshvara and the place of Mother Ganges. Where there is no mountain, there I desire to place your son. Performing austerities upon him, I shall quickly achieve perfection. Please give me your son and make me happy. Although Drona was very attached to Govardhan, he feared the curse of the sage, and speaking in a solitary place, encouraged his son to travel to Bharatvarsha, where liberation is quickly attained. With tears in his eyes, unhappy at the prospect of leaving, Govardhan mounted the sage's hand on the condition that he would stay where Pulastya first put him down. The powerful sage carried Govardhan in his right hand, passing over land, mountains, and oceans, eventually reaching Bharatvarsha and the land of Vrindavan. Govardhan immediately recognized his eternal residence and the home of Sri Krishna. Not willing to go further, he made himself very heavy, and bewildering the mind of the sage, caused him to rest for some time. Pulastya Muni then placed Govardhan near the bank of the Yamuna River and attended to the call of nature. After bathing in the water, cleansing his body, and refreshing himself, the sage was unable to raise the mountain again. Try as he might, he could not budge Govardhan by the space of a finger. Angry and indignant, Sri Pulastya said, Come, come, O great mountain, why do you make yourself so heavy and hesitate to continue our journey? Govardhan said peacefully, O sage, there is no fault on my part. I have promised to stay where you first put me down. Now I will never more move from this place, and hence you will not see me adorn the bank of the Ganga at Kashi. Abandoning his attempt to move Govardhan, seething with anger, his lips trembling and his brows heavily lined, the sage cursed the best of mountains, saying, O arrogant mountain, you dare foil my desire? By the measure of a mustard seed, your size will decrease until you are no more. Since that time, Govardhan Hill, who was at first 8 yojanas long, 5 yojanas wide, and 2 yojanas tall. So a yojana is 8 miles. So 8 times 8, 64 miles long. 5 times 8, 40 miles wide. And 2 times 8, 16 miles tall. Began to shrink daily by the size of a mustard seed. Tungavidya Devi concluded with great emphasis, while Mount Govardhan is present in this world, the effect of Kali will be curtailed. After his topmost peak has sunk away and a vast plain remains in its place, the master of Kali Yuga will assert his complete reign over this world. Just thinking of Govardhan being totally underground and just a flat plain where he used to be is sad. But to speak of Kali coming in. Hearing such a fearful prophecy, the gopis held each other's hands and chanted Vishnu, Vishnu in unison. Desiring to clear this last scene of despondency, Lalita Devi quickly asked, Saki, tell us the glories of Govardhan Hill, who has come to Vraj for the service of its whimsical prince and has become the worshipable deity of its fortunate inhabitants. Sri Radhika agreed, saying, Yes, yes, let us hear some more. Tungavidya said, There is one very ancient history told by learned sages, upon hearing which all sins are destroyed and one's doubts cease. At this, a pleasant breeze blew through the window and carried with it the scent of flowers blessed by Sri Krishna's fragrance. This invoked a pleasant mood among the gopis, who thought they were in a valley of Govardhan and not distant from their beloved. One day, a certain Brahmin named Vijay went to Mathura city to repay his ancestral debt. After the performance of his religious duties, he went to Govardhan Hill and visited its many forests, lakes, groves, and pasturing fields. By the hand of fate, he happened to take one stone from the mountain, and traveling from one forest to another, finally left the circle of Vraj. Raising her hands for emphasis, Tungavidya Devi said, At that moment he saw a horrible Rakshasa monster wishing to eat him. The monster had 3 heads, 6 arms, 6 legs, a huge nose, and a fierce tongue that moved to and fro. At this description, the gopis let out stifled cries of fear. The hairs of his body were like a tangle of thorns. His eyes were red, and he had large, curved fangs. There's a picture here. Oops. There. Large, curved fangs. Where's... Lost my place here now. Oh. Here we are. With nothing but the Govardhan Shila in his possession, the Brahmin struck the monster, who immediately fell dead and gave up his hideous body. Oh, he hit him with the Shila. From the dead form of the beast rose a handsome young man with lotus petal eyes, a garland of forest flowers, and a crown and earrings. Standing with folded hands, he bowed before the Brahmana and said, O best of Brahmins, you have rescued me from a monster's life by the touch of this stone, and have delivered me. I am eternally in your debt. The Brahmin became very perplexed and replied, I have no power to deliver you. By the touch of this stone, such wonderful things have occurred, but I do not know how it is so. Dear sir, if you know the mystery behind all this, then please reveal it to me. Smiling, that effulgent youth spoke to the Brahmin. Govardhan Hill is the king of mountains and the personal form of Sri Krishna. Simply by seeing it, a person attains the supreme goal of life. O Brahmana, I will explain to you the glories of the king of mountains. Please listen. The result attained by 5,000 years of austerities in the abode of Lord Shiva is attained in a single moment on Govardhan Hill. Simply by visiting Govardhan Hill, one attains piety 100,000 times greater than by worship of Brahmins or giving in charity 10 million cows with golden horns. The result of performing 10 million yagyas is attained by once bathing in one of the many kunds on Govardhan Hill. By going on pilgrimage to Govardhan Hill, one attains piety 10 million times greater than that attained by visiting any other holy place or tirtha. If one gives charity, performs austerities, bathes in sacred rivers, chants sacred mantras, worships Brahmanas, and adores the Supreme Lord at all the places of pilgrimage, like Kurukshetra, Naimisha, Mayapuri, Prayag, Ayodhya, or Pushkar, among many others, one attains great spiritual merit. But by visiting Govardhan Hill, one attains spiritual benefit 10 million times greater than all those pious deeds together. One who, thinking of Lord Krishna, bathes in Govindakund, attains a transcendental form like Lord Krishna's. Of this there is no doubt. The youth then said, O Brahmana, I am the living proof of my words. Simply by touching a Govardhan Shila, I attained a transcendental form beyond the influence of the modes of nature. As Tungavidya spoke, the gopis sat spellbound, astonished at the wonderful history of Govardhan Hill. Hearing the words of that liberated soul, the Brahmin was struck with wonder and asked another question. O great soul who knows the glories of Govardhan Hill, Who were you in your last life, and what sins did you commit to assume this ghastly form? The liberated soul replied, in my previous birth, I was the son of a wealthy Vaishya. Under the influence of an affluent life, I became a gambler, rake, drunkard, and a great sinner. My parents rebuked me again and again until one day I poisoned them and killed my wife with a sword. Oh my God, he killed his mother and his father and his wife. Taking all their money, I traveled to the south with a prostitute and became a merciless thief, stealing and murdering many innocent pilgrims. One day I threw my prostitute wife into a well and left her to die. By the hand of Providence, while hunting in the forest, I stepped on a snake and died of his poisonous bite. Psh, that guy was really bad. Fearsome Yamadutas bound me and beat me, and I was forced to suffer in many hells for an unlimited period of time. Eventually, I took birth in Bharatvarsha as a pig, a tiger, a camel, a buffalo, and a snake, and I was repeatedly killed over and over again. After 10,000 births, I was born in the desert as a grotesque monster, and not long ago, in the guise of a Shudra, I came to visit Braj, the forest of Vrindavan, and the sacred Yamuna. When some of Lord Krishna's friends understood my identity, they beat me with sticks and drove me out of Braj. Wandering for many days, hungry and thirsty, I finally met you and planned to take your life. By hitting me with the Govardhan Shila, you have made me very fortunate, and now my life has achieved perfection. Beautiful Tungavidya Devi stopped for a minute and then completed her story. As the liberated soul spoke these words, a splendid chariot, drawn by beautiful horses, rumbling with the sound of the Vedas, decorated with bells and ornaments, and driven by the eternal associates of Sri Krishna, arrived from Goloka. Both the Brahmin and the liberated soul bowed down before the chariot. As soon as the liberated soul climbed aboard, he lost all interest in this material world and, taking his seat with Sri Krishna's associates, returned to his beautiful abode. At this, the gopis began to clap and do the ulu dwani. The ladies do. Now, aware of his true power and glory, the fortunate Brahmin returned to Govardhan Hill, duly worshipped him, performed his circumambulation, and bowed down before him. Raising her delicate hand in exclamation, Tungavidya concluded, Sakis, I have concluded the description of Giriraja's glories. Whoever hears this narration will never see Yamaraj, even in a dream. I don't have to worry about Yamaraj anymore because we just heard this. Whoever hears the glories of Govardhan Hill, saturated with the secrets of Sri Krishna's ever-new transcendental pastimes, will become as fortunate as King Indra in this life and as fortunate as King Nanda in the next. Wow. Completing her wonderful description, her delicate form damp from perspiration, shaking slightly due to excessive bliss, and with the flowers in her loosened hair falling, Tungavidya took shelter of her Sakis. The gopis embraced her, stroked her hair, and saw her as the veritable form of Sri Krishna's passage among their midst. The Vraja Sundari Gana discussed the service, birth, and glories of Govardhan Hill for a long, long time. Same as us. This is the 6th day. Long, long time. As a result, they became very hopeful of becoming the recipients of Sri Krishna's mercy. After all, such a great devotee as Giriraj, who constantly associates with Sri Krishna, who possessed insuperable spiritual power, who had immeasurable love for his lotus feet, and who magnanimously bestowed favor upon sadhakas, would he not give the qualification by which the gopis would receive his shelter one day? Surely he must. As the source of his good fortune, and as his venerable deities, Govardhan Hill constantly worshipped the gopis within his heart. By the influence of the internal potency, Sri Radhika and her Sakis worshipped Giriraj with the conviction that his grace will enable them to gain Sri Krishna's association. This is the transcendental competition of the Lord's devotees. So Govardhan Hill worshipped the gopis, and the gopis worshipped Govardhan Hill. The gopis thought they had never met Sri Krishna before, and if they had, it was only very briefly. They hoped their long-cherished desire would be fulfilled, although in reality they are never separated from him, nor he from them. Now is the last section here. It's a short section. When Shamala visited Sri Radha in the morning, it was to bathe in the shower of her love for Krishna. Their pleasant talks exhibited the insatiable thirst of the gopis for Sri Krishna's association, although they may have just been its fortunate recipients. So now there's like a dialogue. Radha, Shame, just as I was thinking of you, by the arrangement of fate, you have come here. If this is an omen that the tree of my desires will now bear fruit, I will consider it a good morning. O Sundari, although the tree of my desire to gain Sri Krishna's association is constantly sprinkled by my Sakis, still it does not bear fruit. Saki, when, oh when, will I ever see these fruits that I so much long for? Shamala. O Radhe, do not worry. The tree of your desires will certainly bear its fruit. But in my opinion, you are languishing under the amazing nature of these fruits, which, though tasted again and again, give the impression that they have never been tasted before. Radha. O Shame, you do not understand my heartache, and therefore you take my words lightly. Try to understand. Although lightning illuminates a cloudy night, when it disappears, the darkness is twice as dense as before. Similarly, after having seen Sri Krishna just once, his disappearance doubles the misery of his absence and makes it seem as if I had never seen him before. Shamala. Radhe, the black moon known as Kalanidhi bestows a drop of its moonlight on your insatiable chikora bird eyes, but you remain unsatisfied. I have come to hear of those pastimes with your beloved. Please do not withhold anything from me. Radha. Shamale, when a stream of fresh bluish luster began to shower me last night, he took me on the dancing stage of innumerable cupids who were also dancing there, filling me with great feelings of ecstasy. When I was pleased by seeing such dancing, I gave all my sense activities to them as an audience, and I can no longer remember what wonderful performances began on that stage. Shamala. Radhe, as the stage manager of that black moon of ecstatic pastimes of ecstasy, who astonishes millions of dancing cupids by his own dancing, how can you have become merely the audience? Radhe. Radha. Shame, what you say is true. I experience the many things which you describe, but then when separated from him, it is as if awakening from a dream, some magical illusion wherein I forget everything and simply hanker as one bereft of any rasa. Shamala. Radhe, you are truly amazing. Like one who has drunk unlimited nectarian honey, you have lost judgment of what is sweet, and therefore this error of your mind is not at all surprising. Radha. Saki, although I took birth in Gokul, I could never relish Sri Krishna's sweetness, and even when I hear about it, my restless mind cannot keep even a drop of it. In this way, although meeting Sri Krishna eternally, the gopis become forgetful of their association and simply hankered with ever-increasing intensity for that which they always possessed, the heart of Vraja's prince. Looking for any means to acquire Sri Krishna's Sangha, the gopis took solace in the greatness of Govardhan Hill and saw him as the secure shelter to achieve their long-desired aspirations. This mood is nicely portrayed in a prayer by Raghunath Das Goswami, Sri Radhika's Tulsi, which goes like this. O Govardhan, you are the unique source of happiness for all men, women, birds, animals, and other creatures of Raj, because you are absorbed in the mood of friendship towards Sri Sri Radha Krishna, who are surrounded by all their Sakis. O Govardhan, your nature is filled with infinite compassion. Therefore, please accept me, though I am so wretched and miserable, and showing your causeless mercy, let me settle close by you and become worthy of Sri Krishna's love. Now there's the conclusion. This concludes the 14th chapter of the Song of the Flute by a very insignificant disciple of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, which is the overflowing remnants of the previous chapter, describing an atomic fraction of the glories of the King of Mountains, best of all devotees, which is the place of Sri Krishna's innumerable transcendental pastimes, like boating on Manasi Ganga, extracting taxes at Dhanagati, worshipping Govardhan Hill at Aniyor, accepting the worship of the Devas at Govindakund, and rasa dancing at Chandra Sarovara, and is celebrated as the majestic crown of Raj, which is decorated by the radiant gems of Govinda's Leela Sthanas, like Nipakund, Apsarakund, Shamadak, Manikundala, Kadambavan, Vilasavan, Chakratirtha, Udavakund, Shivakadi, Radhakund, Shamakund, Kusam Sarovara, Shamavan, Chitrashila, Vadanishila, Kanuka Kshetra, Lokika Tirtha, Drona Tirtha, to name but a few, and at the behest of Sri Radhika has descended from the spiritual world to assist in Sri Hari's pastimes, and although cursed to diminish by the measurement of a mustard seed a day, will, while visible, continue to hold at bay the terrible influence of Kali, and offer residence to the qualified followers of Rupa Raghunath in the divine shadow of his love-laden peaks. And that's the end of chapter 14. Govardhan as Hari-dasa-varya. We had 2 chapters about Govardhan, and that's both of them finished. The next chapter is called Krishna's Ropes of Love. So we shall start tomorrow on that chapter. Thank you very much for joining. And if you like these pastimes and Katha, then keep on joining every night at 8 p.m. Central Time. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.